On today's Locked On Thunder podcast, Fred Van Vleet is out for the Houston Rockets, and that shakes up the Western Conference.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, media member, and beat writer for Thunder on SI, Ryland Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Ryland_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LO ThunderPod. On today's show, brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets. These across the app. Download the app today at FanDuel.com. We're diving into the Fred Van Vleet injury and how that shakes up the Western Conference and what that means for Oklahoma City, what that means for Houston, what that means for the league. Plus, has ESPN been disrespecting SGA, been disrespecting the Oklahoma City Thunder? We'll talk about all that on today's show with Brandon Rahbar. Everyone, thank you so much for making us your first listen. You everydayers make this show work. Brandon, the everydayers are about to get a special pod, but also they're about to be back in full force as the NBA season is really upon us. I mean, once we get to the media day portion, once we get to the fact that you get to talk to Sam this week, get to talk to the players next week in training camp, I feel like we're back, Brandon.
It feels like we're back. Like, I feel like I see, for those who aren't watching on YouTube, like Ryland is clean shaven. He's in midseason form. I do feel like we are back. Once you get to the Sam Presti preseason presser, that's like, you know, when you're like out of town, like out of state on some trip and you're driving back home and you like hit Norman. If you're coming that way, you feel like you're home. Or if you're going the other way and you hit like, I don't know, what's a town out west that you hit? Like you hit like Mustang and Yukon. I feel like that's how it is once you get to the Sam Presti preseason presser. I feel like, okay, we're there. The season has started. You feel like you're home. That's how it is. And media day is going to be a lot of fun. Like, Ryland, we're going to be covering the NBA champions at media day this season. It's wild.
It is wild. That's a great analogy to use because it's also the same as driving home from a road trip of just you get to a certain point where even if you're running on fumes, even if you feel like you can't drive anymore, you hit that town like a Norman or like a Mustang, and you're just like, you know what? You're on a an added boost because you know that you're home and you can really make it all the way back. So this is that week for me. Really energized for this season, but there was some devastating news that came out today where the Houston Rockets will be without Fred Van Vleet. He tore his ACL. So, it is a season-ending injury, frankly, for the Houston Rockets. Now, there's been great advancements in medicine, especially for ACL tears, that aren't as devastating as they used to be. But it would be very, very, very surprising to see Fred Van Vleet play this season for Houston. And that really changes a lot because Houston, they'd gone all in this offseason. They made the Kevin Durant trade. They signed Dorian Finney-Smith, Clint Capella, and I love the Dorian Finney-Smith move. But the one area in which this team lacks, even though we've spent all summer debating if they're the second best team or they're the third best team in the West, how do you shake out OKC, Denver, Houston, and we had a clear-cut top three out West. The one area where their roster couldn't afford to lose anybody was in their guard rotation, and was the burden that Fred Van Vleet was going to have to carry in that guard spot. And now they don't even get to play a single game with him. So it's devastating for Houston to have the most anticipated season in years for Houston take a significant blow already. The good news for Houston, as we're going to talk about, even though they did go all in this summer and they did make that Kevin Durant trade, they still have a ton of assets that I would not be surprised to see them use to add a guard by the trade deadline. And I'd be pretty surprised if they didn't, honestly, with what we know about their assets and what we know about Raphael Stone. But what we know right now about Houston is they have two options. Hope that Reed Shepherd is just ready in year two after a lackluster rookie season, or play a super big lineup and lean even more into Amen Thompson, which is what I would do. But whenever this news broke, what did it change for you? What did it shake up for you about your thoughts on Houston, about your thoughts on the West?
Yeah, to me, so we've talked about it. I thought the OKC was the clear one, and then the Nuggets and Rockets were there as the clear 2-3, 2A, 2B, if you want to call it, in their own tier. To me, this does lower the ceiling for the Rockets. Do I still think they're a contender? I suppose so, because this was the number 2 seed after all, and you did still get better because you added KD, and Şengün should get better. Amin Thompson should get better. They've got a lot of young players, but Fred VanVleet was very important to this team. He was their one true point guard, or their one true facilitator. He's a vet. You saw it last year when he missed games. Like, the offense was a wreck last year when VanVleet was out. Now, obviously, you add KD. That's going to cure a lot of things on offense. But, you like you said, you got Reed Shepherd, who didn't look ready last year. And, you can take advantage of him defensively. And I know he's a shooter, but I just don't know if he's ready to, just take the 1A spot at point guard on a contending team. But then you've got Amin Thompson, but then you've got some sort of issues as far as spacing and shooting goes and scoring goes. So VanVleet's loss is pretty big. Is he a superstar? No, but he's a really, really good player. And to this particular Rockets team that wants to contend this year, this is a big loss for them.
I mean, the thoughts on Houston are really all over the place, and you have to kind of break down your thoughts in these increments of what they are in the regular season, what they are in the postseason, etc., with what we know today. I mean, if they don't make any moves, which again I would find surprising, their guard room is Reed Shepherd, Amin Thompson, Aaron Holiday. That's it. As guys that you would look at to try to be that point guard mold for Houston. And I'm not out on Reed Shepherd by any means, but let's not do Fred VanVleet a disservice here. Fred VanVleet, yeah, you can question his ability defensively, but if there was ever a team that could mask his defensive deficiencies, it was the Houston Rockets. What he can do as a passer and a scorer, missing that is a massive blow to Houston. You look at what they were last year. They were dreadful offensively all season, with and without Fred VanVleet. But their only path to winning against top competition was what we saw from Fred VanVleet against this Thunder team, where even against this historically great defense, he went off for 38 points and he got the Houston Rockets a win, and they needed that to boost them. Obviously, they wouldn't need the 38 points from Fred VanVleet anymore if he was able to be healthy this season, but they'd still need some scoring from him. They'd still need that playmaking from him. I think that Thompson can fill in the playmaking void. I think that he didn't get to show it enough last year because of the role he was casted into, but I do think that playmaking is there whenever you look at him and who he was as a prospect. I do wonder, though, if the scoring load that Fred carried can be transferred to Amin Thompson. But when I look at this, the first thing that jumps out to me is the position that I had, and we've talked about, and we've gone back and forth about with the tiers of OKC, Denver, Houston. This just solidifies Houston to me as below Denver. And I had already been very high on Denver as my number 2, but a lot of people would push back on that. A lot of people would put them in the same tier. To me, it's clear it's OKC, it's Denver, then it's Houston. But in the regular season, I think that the Houston Rockets should still win a lot of games. And I would not be shocked at all to see Houston still be a top 3 seed, still be the number 2 overall seed in the Western Conference this season, even without Fred VanVleet. What it changes the most is the postseason, because that's a lot to put on Amin Thompson to not only catch up to the scoring prowess that Fred was, but also do it in the postseason in his second ever go of it in that setting. That just seems really, really steep for what you would want Houston to be as a contender. That being said, I think that Houston's no longer a championship contender because OKC and Denver should not lose to this team without Fred VanVleet with what they have today. Now, again, if they go make that move we're expecting and they go trade for somebody, we'll revisit this conversation completely. But if they just stayed status quo with this roster, Denver and OKC should feel very disappointed if they lose to Houston now. And that wasn't the case 48 hours ago, whenever we thought Fred VanVleet was healthy and was ready to rock and roll with this roster. And so that's what it changes the most for me about Houston with this injury. I want to know if Brandon agrees with that. Would it be disappointing for Houston to beat OKC, to beat Denver come playoff time? And who can they realistically still beat in the postseason all coming up? But first, I want to say right now, my good friends over at Monarch Money, folks. Monarch Money is amazing. It's incredible. Most people can't even name all of their financial accounts and even what they're worth. So between your 401ks, your properties, your investments, if you don't know what they're all worth and what they all are even, you're leaving money on the table. And that's where Monarch Money comes in. Monarch Money is an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've been putting off organizing your finances, Monarch Money is here for you. Monarch Money does the heavy lifting. That way you don't have to. They can link all of your accounts in minutes, and you can see clear-cut data visuals, smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet, which is my personal favorite part because this is not a math pod. But I also love the categorization because I am a sucker for subscription services. I really get looped into them all the time with these free trials, and I forget to cancel them. And Monarch Money lets you know, hey, you're spending this much money on subscriptions. How many of these are you actually using? And you can then cut some out that you're not using a whole lot with Monarch Money. Go check it out today at Monarch Money. And when you do, you can avoid letting this financial opportunity slip through the cracks by using Monarch Money code LOCKEDONNBA on your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. For your second listen, go check out Locked On NBA for the national scope of what's going on in Houston. But Brandon, now that we see what this Rockets roster is currently, and that Fred Van Vleet will not be a part of this, where does it push them when it comes to the postseason, when it comes to a title chase as it relates to OKC and Denver and these other contenders?
Yeah, this has been a rough couple of days for fans of Houston teams between, the Astros and then the Texans starting off 0-3 and then this Van Vleet news. So shout out to the Houston area sports fans. Serious bummer. And I hate it for Fred Van Vleet. He's been such a great veteran, a classy guy. Really, really like him as a player. I do think ultimately this injury does lower their ceiling from true contender to just really good playoff team. I just can't see them winning a championship. I'm the same way as you. Their options now, as we've said, you can put that on Reed Shepherd's plate. You can put it on Amin Thompson's plate, but he's doing so much defensively. He's carrying so much defensively, adding that stress. And then KD, he's not really like a point forward type of player. So where does the playmaking come from? I think a little bit from Reed Shepherd, a little bit from Amin Thompson, a little bit from Şengün as like a point center. I just think that now it is clearly OKC and Denver at the top of the West. And I think that it is a disappointment if you're the Thunder or if you're the Nuggets and you lose to the Rockets. The Rockets are a great team. Respect to them for what they did last year, a second seed. These young players have gotten better. I think they're very well coached. And I do still think that they have a high ceiling. I just don't think it's a championship ceiling anymore. And if you're the Thunder and the Nuggets, two former champs, you have this team. I just think there's a lot of one-way players now, and you lose Fred Van Vleet and the playmaking and the scoring and the spacing. I just think it puts so much pressure now on players to play kind of out of position and to ask more of these young players like Shepherd and Amin Thompson and Şengün. And it also stresses their depth. If they were to lose, a player, for a couple of weeks here, a couple of weeks there, it's going to stress them that much more because you've already lost Fred Van Vleet and all that he brings, the playmaking and scoring and shooting and spacing. So any other injuries, for any amount of time, the depth, I don't know, man. I feel for the Rockets because, I know that this was an all-in year for them. It's hard for me to see a pathway now to a championship. I very much see a pathway to a home court advantage team, but I can't see a pathway to a championship or upsetting the Nuggets or Thunder if they're fully healthy.
Yeah, so we're on the same page here. I mean, to me, the contention status for now is on pause, barring any moves without Fred Van Vleet. Could they beat any team that name, OKC and Denver? I think that they still can. I don't want to get too carried away in this injury. I think that they can still win a playoff series against almost any team in the West. But for them to upset Houston, for them to upset OKC or Denver, it would have needed to be a perfect series for them. From where I was at coming into this year without this information. Now with this information, I mean, it would be pretty shocking to see them pull that off now. And so if you can't get past OKC and Denver with what we know right now, you're not going to be a title contender in this league. So I think that Houston is on the back burner in that conversation. But in the grand scheme of the West, even though it's a amazing conference and there's amazing competition, I still have them as that number 3 team.
Yeah, I would still rank them number 3 at this point. And I do think that they make some sort of move. You know, I know that there'll be some issues as far as like aprons and salary cap restrictions and what moves they can actually make. But maybe they make some sort of fringe move just to get another guard in the building, someone that can play make and score and shoot a little bit. But, you know, when you look at through the rest of the West, although it is incredibly tough in the West, this is still KD, Şengün, Amin Thompson, and a lot of really nice role players around those guys. And all the other West teams besides OKC and Denver, I think very much have big question marks. As good as the Lakers are, they obviously have some question marks. The Wolves are great, but they lost Gilgeous-Alexander Walker. Like, how are they going to be this year? The Warriors, I think once they got Butler, were a great team and played at a really, really high level, but they're another year older. All those guys are on the wrong side of 35 now. So, you know, you kind of go through the West and you can still very much see a pathway where the Rockets are the 3 seed. But I think because of this injury between the Lakers, Wolves, Warriors, whoever else in the West, if the Spurs take a leap, whoever else it is, I think there's also a pathway, unfortunately for Houston, where I could also see them as the 5 or 6 seed now, just based on the West and based on this injury and what it does to them.
The reason I keep them at 3 is because there are a lot of question marks with everybody else. And I've been all in on this Lakers offseason. I've been drinking the Kool-Aid of the big market purple and gold, but they do have a lot of question marks. And the Houston Rockets have a lot of facts. The facts are they've proven that they can win in the regular season, even with the disastrous offense, which that offense is still going to be improved, even without Fred Van Vleet this season. They've proven that they are a great elite level defense. And when I look at the Lakers and the Warriors and whoever else in the West that's not named OKC and Denver, are they elite at anything that I know for a fact they're going to be elite at this season? I can't say that for other teams, but I can put Houston in the elite category in one of the biggest parts of the game. So I'm going to keep them at that 3rd spot. It just really takes them, to me, off the table when it comes to championship prowess. And that's not exactly a hot take. You look at the ESPN survey, which we're going to get into coming up, and already, without any of this information in hand about Fred Van Vleet, ESPN did not pick Houston to win the West and did not pick Houston to win the NBA championship. In fact, the Eastern Conference, they had votes for the Cavs, the Knicks, the Hawks, the Bucks, the Magic. The West, they had votes for OKC and Denver. OKC had 18 votes. Denver had 2. And then the NBA champion, OKC had 18 votes. Denver had 2. So, I mean, that was kind of it for the ESPN survey. And again, that was before Fred Van Vleet. So it was already kind of a 2-team race. And I think that the winner of the West is going to win the NBA championship this season, as ESPN also predicts. And the Thunder, of course, the heavy favorites, 18-2 against Denver with the panel on ESPN. So we're not exactly stepping out of turn with Houston, especially with what we know about this Fred Van Vleet injury and what we know, like you mentioned, even though they have assets, how can they handle this from a salary cap standpoint to make an in-season trade? Because in-season trades are a lot harder than the offseason, than the summertime when you can shuffle a lot of things around. You can't shuffle much in season. So that limits them as well to implement an ability to avoid a disaster situation in their guard rotation. So if it hits with Reed Shepherd and it hits with Amon taking a step forward as a scorer, then we can revisit this at the middle of the season. But right now, it does take some of the blow away from the preseason prediction opportunity for the Houston Rockets, even though they won the summertime and they got Kevin Durant. So coming up, even though ESPN had 18 votes for the Thunder to win the title, are they disrespecting SGA? All coming up. But first, I want to say right now, our good friends over at FanDuel, go check out FanDuel today because FanDuel is awesome and the NFL season is here. FanDuel is making sure you are ready for kickoff every single week with can't-miss offers. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel is great, and if you're ready to play, you can download the app or visit FanDuel.com to get started. At FanDuel.com, you can place your $5 bet. If it's your first bet and you win, you get $300 in bonus bets. If you're only an NBA fan, need not worry. They have lines out already, like this Houston OKC opener, where Houston now is a 7-point underdog, a whole point added to the spread in OKC's favor after this news. But if you are into the NFL, there's a lot of great games this week, including we have on the docket the Washington Commanders as 2.5-point favorites on the road in Atlanta. We also have a big game for Brandon's Cowboys. They're 6.5-point home dogs to the Green Bay Packers and Micah Parsons at FanDuel.com. Go check that out today. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Brandon, first of all, do you agree with the NBA, ESPN on NBA survey here that the champion will come from the West? Not a single vote to any of the East winners.
I do agree. I think that OKC and Denver, and before this Fred Van Vleet injury, the Rockets were clearly the two best teams in the NBA, three best teams if Van Vleet was healthy. Look, all due respect to the Cavs and to the Knicks, I just think that the Thunder and Nuggets are just better. If all those teams are fully healthy, I think the three best teams are in the West, quite honestly. But the Cavs and Knicks are great. They're going to have a better road to getting to the conference finals because the East is much easier than the West is. And, the Thunder and Nuggets are going to have a tougher road to get there. But ultimately, I think those are the two best teams. And it's hard for me to see if nothing else changes, one of those teams not winning at all.
I agree. I think it's going to come from the West. And I agree with the ratio. 18 to 2 is not a bad thing from ESPN because it is conceivable that Denver can beat OKC. We are in the midst of a parity era. And with that data of the last 7 champions haven't made it out of the second round even, you still have an overwhelming amount of votes to win the NBA championship. I think that that's plenty of respect on the Thunder's title defense case. Where I do think ESPN got a little disrespectful was about SGA. And he was involved in a couple of different categories. The first one, who wins MVP this season? Jokic got 7 votes. Shai got 5. Luka got 4. Wemby got 2, Giannis got 1, and Edwards got 1 as well. 7-5, Jokic and Shai isn't terrible. Now, do I think that the Anthony Edwards vote was kind of thrown away? Yeah. Do I think that the Wembanyama votes were kind of thrown away? Yeah. I think realistically, it's a 4-person race for MVP this season, and I would give those votes to Giannis, taking them away from Wemby and Edwards, because if Milwaukee's any good, it's because Giannis was incredible. But ultimately, the MVP one, I don't find that as disrespectful to me. I mean, I've been stoned for being a Jokic supporter on this very show, but I mean, he's incredible. He's just simply incredible, and there's nothing you can do about it. But where I did have a problem was in the next few categories.
Yeah.
Who's the best player right now? Jokic got 19 votes, and what stopped him from being unanimous was Luka Doncic, not the player who just won NBA MVP, West Finals MVP, NBA Finals MVP, and was the scoring champion. And does it on defense too. But it was Luka Doncic that stopped Jokic from being a unanimous best player in the world. That's crazy to me. I love Luka. I am a bigger Luka honk than I am a Nikola Jokic super fan. But if you're not going to make Jokic unanimous, at that point, it can't be Luka who's right there whenever you have Shai doing what Shai's been doing over the course of these last few seasons. And then the big one to me, the best player in 2030. Wembanyama has 16 votes. Doncic has 2. Despite the questions around is this men's health thing really legit for Doncic and what's it going to look like in 2030? Shai has 1, and Jason Tatum has 1. If you would have just said, okay, we're all in on Wemby, but yeah, Luka and Shai, 2 votes for each, and they're tied at number 2, I wouldn't have taken this as disrespect. But Jason Tatum? How long are we going to do this with Jason Tatum? Every year we're like, oh yeah, this is the year where Jason Tatum wins an MVP. He's never finished top 5 in MVP voting. He's never been top 3 in MVP voting. He's never been an MVP. He's never taken that step as best player in the NBA, even while winning an NBA championship and leading Boston to the title a couple of seasons ago. And he just tore his Achilles. And by the way, he's got to not only come back from that torn Achilles, he's got to make it through 2030 and then be crowned best player in the world, meaning he gets better after he tears his Achilles. All the while, you have a player right now who is healthy, who did lead the league in scoring, who had a season that you can only compare to Michael Jordan, who swept all of the MVP awards that the NBA can possibly give out, who's been on the All-NBA first team for the last few seasons, who's been a multiple-time All-Star, who's checked every single box, and oh yeah, does it on defense too. It's like, what are we doing here, Brandon? Like, what is it going to take for Shai to go from this, like, it almost feels like the national media is kind of pushing him aside of like, oh yeah, it's a fun season. Let's see you do it again. Hello. He finished top 5 in MVP voting, runner-up in MVP voting, and then won the MVP. That's 3 straight seasons of him being in this echelon of player. And you can make the argument he could have won the MVP 2 years ago, but Jokic was just incredible, and they had to give it to him last year. And all the while, he's had 2 straight number 1 seeds in the West, so he's had the team success, and he's had the individual accolades that, again, can only be compared to Michael Jordan. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills right now reading this and reading the frankly disrespect to SGA.
Yeah, these two in particular were pretty disrespectful to SGA. I completely co-sign on everything you just said. I don't know what else Shai can do. Like, very clearly, however you want to rank them, 1 or 2 or 1A, 1B, Shai and Jokic have been the 2 best players in the NBA for 2 years running, for 24 months running. Like, I don't know what else Shai has to prove. Shai, like you said, last year did everything you could ask of an NBA player. He checked every single box, won every accolade that you could win, and won the NBA championship, by the way, and beat Jokic on the way there and outplayed Jokic in that series. By the way, last year, yes, the Mavs did beat the Thunder, but Shai did outplay Luka. I mean, I'm just saying, like in like those head-to-head matchups, Shai outplayed Anthony Edwards in their head-to-head matchup in the playoffs. Like, I don't know what else Shai has to do. And I'm not saying he has to be number 1 in these either. That's fine. But no votes for best player right now. None of the 20 are going to give the guy that's the reigning MVP, reigning finals MVP, scoring title winner, just turned 27 years old, won it all, with one of the youngest teams ever, second youngest team to ever win an NBA title, the clear leader on this team. Yeah, like I just don't understand it. I don't know how he doesn't get any votes at all for best player right now and only gets 1 vote for best player in 2030. Yeah, the disrespect I think is real, but you know what? It's not going to bother Shai at all. If anything, it's going to motivate them that much more to go out and do it again. Not that they need it. They've got all the internal motivation to go out and do this, but it's just like another one of those things. Like, if the outside is doubting, the Thunder are just going to keep doing their thing. Shai's going to keep doing his thing, regardless of the outside noise, and let the play speak for itself. Let the results speak for themselves as well. But yeah, pretty wild. After an Michael Jordan-esque season where he win everything, to see these results is pretty surprising, quite honestly.
And then you go down the list and it's like, who's the best American player in 5 years from now? J-Dub gets 1 vote. Paolo gets 1 vote. Jason Tatum yet again gets 2 votes in 5 years from now to be the best American player. Cooper Flag gets 5 and Ant gets 11.
Yeah. And I'm just glad somebody voted for J-Dub here. I'm glad somebody voted for J. I thought maybe Chet could get a vote there as well. Maybe they split the vote. Maybe like, I don't know whether to vote for Dub or Chet, so I'll just vote for Cooper Flag here. But yeah, the Jason Tatum thing is kind of wild. Like, coming off of the injury, we don't know how it's going to be, especially 5 years from now. Look, end of the day, what's so funny is we've heard 2 different things. We've heard that Shai's supporting cast wasn't going to be good enough once the Thunder get to the playoffs. So they're going to get knocked out of the playoffs because it has a good enough supporting cast. But then we hear the other side of it where Shai's only carried because the supporting cast is so good. So it's like, which one is it? I don't know. But end of the day, I don't think the Thunder care. I don't think Shai cares. I don't think Dub cares. I don't think Chet cares. These are media surveys. And the Thunder are going to go out and try to win another championship, regardless of how it turns out.
And then the other one that I found funny was not regarding the Thunder whatsoever. This is not Thunder disrespect. It's just kind of funny. Who will win Rookie of the Year? Cooper Flag got 19 votes. Con Knipple stole the other vote. And I like Con Knuppel. I think that was a good pick for Charlotte. But like, come on. Cooper Flagg is one of these guys that like, if we're doing this right, and the preseason to me, you can't predict injuries. You can't predict that like, oh, well, what if this guy doesn't have the 65 games played? Cooper Flagg is going to play 65 games with what we know right now, and he's going to be the rookie of the year. And that should be unanimous for how this thing goes. And then what's funny about that is like he wins rookie of the year this year. Con Knuppel doesn't get a single vote for who will be the best player in this class in 5 years, which I understand they're different categories. It's just kind of funny that it was not reciprocated in that category for Con Knuppel. And then I want to ask you this question, Brandon. What happens with LeBron James at the start of the 26-27 season? Is he retired? Is he on a new team? Is he on the Lakers? What do you think?
So he's not retired. I think that there will be a farewell tour for LeBron, and it's not going to be this season because, it hasn't been talked about. So like, people that are going out to road games or whatever, it's not going to be the last time to see LeBron, or else we would know about it. I do think that there will be some sort of announcement preceding that season. I have a feeling that will be his last season, and we'll get a farewell tour. I think that he'll stay in LA, maybe somehow go back to Cleveland for his final season. I think it'll be one of the two. I don't think he like jumps ship and goes to, either one of those teams should be a contending team, whether it's the Lakers or whether it's the Cavs. So that works out just fine. But yeah, I think that will be his final season. We'll know about it preceding.
So I do think that this is an interesting poll they put together through the eyes of 20 coaches, executives, and scouts across the NBA anonymously with ESPN. It's always fun to look at these. These are votes from people in the league, and so we kind of disagree with some of them and think they're pretty disrespectful to Shai, but it's how that they voted. For the LeBron question, I agree with you. I mean, this guy's going to do a retirement tour, I think. So the 5 who voted for him to retire, I don't think will happen. 7 people voted for him to be a Laker. And then he had 4 with Cleveland, 2 with Golden State, 1 with Dallas, 1 with Miami. I think right now you'd have to say the Lakers, but I do think he's going to play. I wouldn't put it past him, though, to play on a new team next year. Maybe a return to Cleveland, maybe something like that as a farewell. But I do think that he will play basketball next season. So I do not think he's going to retire. It's going to be a lot of fun, though, to see how it plays out, how his season plays out, how the Thunder season plays out. Brandon, I think that we're back.
We're back. The season is back. Like Sam Presti presser, media day, training camp, preseason. It's all happening. We are back, and I'm excited to follow this reigning champion team into this next season.
And the preseason in the NBA, and I know that I'll defend the NBA over anything anyway, but it truly is the best preseason of any sport because the players that play more. And then also for this Thunder team, like you look around, who are they going to play that you're not interested in the preseason? Like they have such a deep roster and an intriguing roster with intriguing depth that every minute of the preseason will be fun to follow. And we'll follow that along here every single day on Locked On Thunder and after every single game as well. We'll have a lot of pods with Brendan Rahbar and so much more for you. Go check out Brendan Rahbar on Daily Thunder. Check him out on social media and the OKC Dream Team, where you can find both of us over there. Brandon, thanks again for hopping on this week. And until next time, be good and be good to one another.